This week on the TT Show, we dive into NVIDIA's new RTX 4080 Super with an overview, NVIDIA releases RTX Remix Open Beta and what that means for PC game modding, FSR 3 support comes to more games, Intel's next-gen GPU gets its specifications leaked, a Windows update so big it could be called Windows 12, Amelia Earhart's plane wreckage may have been found, a new HP Lovecraft-inspired horror game, an extremely rare green flash photographed coming from Venus, new Nintendo Switch 2 rumors, and much more. Let's get into it. Hello, welcome back to the TT Show. My name is Jak Connor. I'm a hardware editor over at Tweaktown, and today I'm joined by my co-host,
Kosta Andriadis, gaming hardware editor at Tweaktown.
How are you going, my friend?
Oh, hanging in there.
You sound sad.
Sad. More just tired, really.
Yeah.
It's the GPU onslaught continues.
Yeah.
And this week is the 4080 Super, which is like the fourth GPU launch in the space of 3 weeks, which is kind of unprecedented because usually, like even when it's a new generation, right, you get just the 4090 or just the 4080, and then, you know, like 3 weeks later, AMD will launch theirs. Like, you know, they don't all come in the space of 3 weeks.
Yeah, why have they done that? We might have gone over it last week, but just for me.
I think it's just because of CES, and I think just because they had to refresh for NVIDIA, they had to refresh the full lineup.
Yeah.
Because they decided to do the 4070 Super, and because that was a sizable upgrade in performance over the 4070, replacing that at the same price, dropping the price of that, and then it's like, oh, well, how does that make the entire lineup look? Well, it changes the value proposition of the 4070 Ti, and also now the 4080 is probably way too expensive, so, you know, we need to redo that. So they decided to basically refresh the full thing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Did you want to get straight into the RTX 4080 Super?
We may as well.
Yeah. Go. Oh, he's pulling it up just for the audio listeners here.
The Founders Edition.
Oh, it's gorgeous. Look at it.
In all black.
Oh, I love it.
And so there was a delay in actually getting the Founders Edition. It only just arrived. So there'll be a delay in that review. There's reviews of other models going up, including...
He's pulling up another one just for the audio listeners.
This is the
What
MSI
is that?
Expert. It's their new flagship. It's basically borrows the design of the Founders Edition with a push-pull fan design.
Oh my God.
Like a premium sort of metal with a grill.
That reminds me of Apple's desktop PC. You know how it had the cool honeycomb bee, the beehive kind of look on the exterior. I do like that design though. That MSI card looks sick.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. So basically, if you know MSI GPUs, they've got the Ventus, which is the not entry level, but the base models. And then after that, they got the Gaming X, which has a few different variants. And then they got the Supreme, which was their high-end GPU.
Do they still do the Lightning?
No, I don't think so.
No? Is that another brand or is that was MSI, right?
It's a familiar. Yeah, I don't particularly know what it is.
Yeah, they change the names quite regularly.
So now this is called the Expert, right? And this is brand new, so it's a brand new design from them, and it's their new flagship. And it only comes in 4080 Super flavor for the moment, so it's them trying something new. And it's impressive because it's got a little small out of the box overclock, but it's sturdy metal, looks great, and there's no real there's nothing equivalent to it outside of NVIDIA's Founders Editions, which aren't, they're not, the NVIDIA Founders Editions aren't really sold everywhere. They're more a niche. They sell them through their website. And there's only Best Buy, I think, is the only store that carries them in the US.
Oh.
So the majority of cards being sold are MSI cards and Asus cards and all the other brands. The Founders Editions are kind of the reference models.
Yeah.
And NVIDIA just decided to make them look incredible. So MSI's version is it's really cool.
How does it compare to the 40? Because last week on the show we were talking about the RTX 4070 Ti Super. How does it compare to that?
Well, it's more of a 4K. It's basically a 4K gaming card, and a pretty beastly one at that.
Yeah.
You know, the 4090 is still in a league of its own.
Mm-hmm.
But like the big thing here is that, which I kind of like mentioned in my review, is that this feels like a relaunch as opposed to a refresh, because the 4080 launched with a $1,200 US MSRP or price point, which is pretty sizable because it breaks as soon as you go over 1,000. You're just like in uncharted territory, really.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, where the 3090s and 4090s live. And so like AMD's flagship was 999 and offered similar non-RT performance. And so in terms of like popularity, like, you know, people were shelling out for the 4090 because it's like, you know, if you want the best of the best, you're an enthusiast, so you're going to pay whatever it costs, essentially.
Yeah.
And then for the most part, people are just gravitating towards like the 4070 and the 4070 Ti, which was, you know, more reasonably priced.
Mm-hmm.
So the 4080 Super drops the price from $1,200 to $999. So it's like same price as AMD's flagship. And with that, you've got like a modest boost to specs.
Okay.
So even NVIDIA said that like performance is, you know, basically the same as the 4080. You can expect up to an uplift of 3% at 4K, which is like not a lot. But the main thing is that it's already at a performance tier that's, you know, super high end and really good for 4K, especially like ray tracing. And so you lower the price, and then the value proposition compared to the Radeon 7900 XTX seems a lot better because you factor in DLSS and all that sort of stuff that NVIDIA is a leader on.
Yeah.
So like the Founders Edition and that kind of like is about a 3% faster than the 4080 for 4K gaming. So it's not a lot.
That's really low.
The MSI model and like the ROG Strix and other OC models are closer to like 6%.
Oh, okay.
4K. So it's a little bit more. Yeah, so like it's not like they kind of like set the expectation. So like the big thing is just the price drop. So that's why it feels like a relaunch. So it's like, oh, okay. So now like I think they're going to do really well because now it is considerably cheaper than the 4090, right?
Yeah.
And sure, it's not 4090 level performance, but it's pretty good 4K gaming performance. Like it's the second most powerful GPU after the 4090.
Yeah, yeah. What is the performance difference between the 4080 Super and the 4090?
Okay, so for 4K gaming, just looking at the like the reference spec or like the Founders Edition type spec, so like the MSRP models, not overclocked models.
Yep.
Just looking at my numbers here. I think I wrote it down. Yeah, so for 4K gaming, it's basically 25% or 20 to 25% slower for 4K gaming.
Okay. And what's the price difference?
$600. So you go from like 1,000 to 1,600.
I would pay it, wouldn't you?
It's diminishing returns, right? So it's like you're paying way more for not the equivalent amount of performance.
Yeah.
So it's more like it just seems like better value. The 4080 is better value than the 4090.
Yeah. Okay.
So I mean, looking at like the 40 Ti Super for 4K gaming, it's like 16 to 18% faster. Which is a decent amount.
That's
enough
a chunk.
To push it.
That's a chunk.
Yeah. Compared to the 4090, like I said, 3 to 6% faster depending on the model, but it's not a huge difference. But compared to the AMDs, like you'd factor in all performance, it's about 5 to 7% faster, and it's the same price. But you've got considerably better ray tracing performance,
Yeah, all the bells and whistles that come with it.
DLSS, like, you know, like, because when you get to like 4K at this level, right, at what the 4080 can do, you turn on DLSS quality and you're already like pushing, what was 100, you're pushing into triple digits.
Yeah.
Like without fail. And most games launch with that sort of stuff. So it's like, well, if I want like high-end, like super high-end ultra-wide gaming or super high-end 4K, if you want to be on the cutting edge, you look at that. If that's the sort of price range you're looking at and you're weighing up the options of like, there's AMD's flagship, there's, you know, like the 4080 was like a big chunk more than AMD's flagship. And the trade-off was that like you're paying more for like better ray tracing performance and DLSS and all these other features that NVIDIA has, which was like the premium, so to speak, is the way you would justify it. But now they're like the same price. So that's why I think it's a relaunch and it's a really good card, but it's like it's not a groundbreaking sort of like, oh, now this is substantially faster, because then that would just encroach into 4090 territory. Which still sits in its own sort of like class. Like there's like the 4090 isn't competing with anything, whereas this is competing with AMD's flagship now.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. So the main takeaway is the price drop. It's not really the performance with this with this card.
That's right.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And like if you want to, like, this is a card for 4K gaming, right?
Of course.
That's the only resolution it makes sense. Or ultra wide, basically ultra wide or 4K. Anything less, like even 1440p, it's diminishing returns. There's better options for 1440p gaming. Like in terms of like value for money, bang for your buck. Like if you look at like 1080p gaming, like the difference between the 4080 Super, the 4090, the AMD's flagship, you're looking at like there's like single digits is like 3% separate or 5% separating just those three cards. You know, like they're just wasted at lower resolutions.
So the 4080 would be 4080 Super would be a card. Say if I had one of the new ultra wide 240 hertz monitors, that card would be applicable to that resolution and frame rate.
Yeah, for a lot of games, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like there's games that you just aren't going to hit 240
Oh, yeah, of course.
hertz with, like, you know, once you max out settings, if they're like highly cinematic games, they're just not designed to run at that sort of speed. But like, you know, if you're playing like a competitive title, then for sure, no issues.
Yeah.
You won't even be stressed.
That's awesome. No, that's...
But the good thing as well is that it's still super efficient too. So, it uses less power than, like, you know, like the 4080 Super is substantially more powerful than the 3080, right? Like substantially more.
Yeah.
But like it uses less power for 4K gaming on average.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What are the temps like?
So yeah, pretty stable. Like I've tested like a handful of cards. So like, you know, like the ROG Strix model, because that's, you know, it's built like it's 4 slots thick, dude. It's gigantic, right? It's built like a tank. It is like a tank. It's like a whole PC that you're connecting to your PC.
Do you have it on hand, or is it in a PC at the moment?
It's in a box.
Yeah, fair enough.
But that was one I held up for like the 40 Ti Super. You're like, oh my god, look at the size of that.
That's right. Yeah, last week.
This is even bigger.
It's even bigger.
So this is like even bigger. It's probably the biggest GPU I think I've ever seen. Right. So like that one is over-engineered, right? And so it runs ridiculously cool. I had like a stress test going. Like when I do the stress test, I just leave it running like a benchmark and then just have GPU-Z open and it's just running for like 20 minutes or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And like the temps didn't even crack like 60 degrees.
Oh my god.
The fan speed's like at like 30%. I'm like, all right. It's like, you know, and then like memory temperature low. Like the MSI's one, the way that NVIDIA's Founders Edition works is that like it works best in like a closed or semi-closed case because of the way that you got the fans and then you got pushing it out the back as well. But even so, like in a fully open GPU test bench, it's, you know, like it's in like the mid 60s.
That's good. That's
which
really
is like
good.
Yeah, and the memory temp's extremely low. So like there's nothing, or like hotspots are low as well. So it's not like no part of it is overheating, so to speak. So like, you know, with like the 3090s and the 3080s, like the memory got really hot in some models, like especially like the Founders Editions and stuff. Like they were pushing like 90 degrees and stuff like that.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So they've definitely figured out how to cool memory.
Yeah, that's
And like, there's
that's
a
the
bunch of
thing
different
about
models.
these new, or at least I found with the 4000 series, and just reading and hearing you talk about it, it's just the efficiency compared to the 3000 series. Is you get more performance for less. There's less wattage being pulled. The temps are lower. It's like it's incredible how much they can squeeze out of these cards. It just every generation I'm impressed.
Yeah, so like with the 4080 Super, let's say you're maxing it out, Cyberpunk ray tracing 4K.
Yeah.
With DLSS, frame gen, everything going. It's going to be like pulling 300 to 320 watts, the max TGP for the reference design. And that's like, okay, so that's pushing above 300 watts. That's, power hungry for a GPU.
Mm-hmm.
But because of like the efficiency of the architecture, right? If you were to lower the resolution, if you were to like start capping frame rates, the performance you can still get like at half the power is insane. Like just by like even like tempering off. You like if you were to run it at like like cap things at like, undervolted, so it's like running at 70-80% power and you're still getting like 90 to 95% of the same performance. Like that's the way it works. Like it doesn't like that, just it's that last 10% of performance that they really push.
Yeah.
When it comes to this sort of because that's what you do. Like you want like to get peak performance in when you're benchmarking, or in some cases, but you've got that option to be able to just scale. Yeah.
Okay. So it kind of, the efficiency, there's a sweet spot in like if you were to cap the FPS or reduce the resolution or the quality, but if you really want to hit the NOS on the graphics card, for all intents and purposes, there is a NOS button.
Yeah, that's right. Like for example, like let's say you're running a game like even let's say like Diablo 4, and which I ran on 4080 Super. So at ultra wide resolution, hitting 300 plus FPS or whatever the case is.
Oh wow!
I cap it to like 144 to match the refresh rate of the display, and then the GPU goes from like 280 watts down to like 160 or something like that in usage.
Oh wow!
Like it's just, and like the fans are like barely doing anything. It's almost like it's on vacation. But it's still like pumping out 144 FPS. You know what I mean? Like it's like, it just scales incredibly well.
Would it be correct to say that there's a bell curve of efficiency?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That is that's interesting.
So, I think it's going to sell really well just because of the price point for enthusiasts, for people that have been eyeing 4090s and now they say, oh, well, the 4080 is now way cheaper.
Yeah.
And it's a bit faster or whatever the case is, but not like dramatically. But like if you're upgrading, if that's what you're eyeing, and even if you've got like a 3080, right, this is considerably more powerful. Like, this is already like 50%, 60%, whatever it is, more powerful.
Oh, okay. Wow. Compared to the 3080, it's 50%.
Let me double check that figure, but it's something. It's huge. It's a huge amount. Yeah, it's a huge amount. It's more than a generational leap.
Well, anything over 30%, it's like it feels like you're getting free performance to that, but it's like it's a no-brainer if you have that card, and especially if you're eyeing one of the new monitors that have come out. That say if you had an ultra wide at 120 hertz or a 4K at 120 hertz, and you want to get a 4K display that is 200 or pushing higher and higher and higher, and you have a 3080, then this seems like a good pick without breaking the bank and going and getting a 4090. You just have
a look for 4K gaming compared to the 3080.
Yeah. Bear with us,
like
listeners.
Getting to insane levels of performance, right? Because if you even like it goes 3% faster, but like the problem with the 4080 wasn't that it wasn't powerful; it was super powerful. It's 58.7% faster for 4K gaming. Stock settings, Founders Edition versus Founders Edition.
Oh my god! Wow.
at 4K gaming, right?
Yeah, that's incredible. So, all 3000 series listeners, if you're in the upper echelon of
and that's a rare situation, right? Because most people are upgrading
rare.
every second generation, right? Like you don't upgrade like every generation GPUs. Most people, it's like, well, I wait for the next one because it's every 2 years is pretty. You don't need to like upgrade every 2 years. It's like every 4 years it kind of feels right. So if you're going from like the 2080, because the 3080 was a massive leap over the 2080. And so this one, see the thing is like with the 40 series is that the 4080 and the 4090 represent massive generational leaps in performance. Massive.
Is that a testament to the architecture?
Yeah. Like at its peak, yeah. It's just insane.
Jesus. That is a 60%. That's unheard of, or at least to my ears. I haven't heard of a jump like that from generation to generation. That's big.
Yeah. It's huge. Sure, it like costs more, but like even then, like the difference is,
it's worth it. We have a jam-packed show, as you have seen. Is that everything that you wanted to talk about with the 4080? Did you want to round off that segment? Or
check out our reviews for the show notes if you want to see like full benchmarks and stuff. There's like all reviews up now, so check those out.
Yep, head over to Tweaktown. Yeah, hit the show notes. We got links to all of the stories we'll talk about in today's show down there. Did you want to go straight into RTX Remix?
Yeah. So this one will be a quick one because we've covered this a couple of times in the past. So basically, NVIDIA's RTX Remix, it's like a software or mod tool for PC gaming, is now in open beta, which means anybody can download it. So what it is that it uses NVIDIA Omniverse. So basically any modder can inject a DirectX 8 or 9 title, and then it basically allows you to basically remaster the game by doing things like changing the lighting, make sure everything's like physically based rendering or PBR, which is essentially like, so textures react to light. So like old games used tricks and stuff like that. And so like it's a full modding suite. And so now in open beta means like the floodgates are going to be opened because we've seen what can be done with RTX Remix. The first example was NVIDIA's own internal RTX Remix project, which was Portal RTX, which made it fully path traced.
Yeah.
And they changed all the assets and upgraded models, which this allows you to do. Or you can use like AI to upscale textures and add depth to things. So like they showed that off and it looked, and it's like it's a game changer.
Yeah.
It brings systems to its knees, but like Portal with full path trace lighting, which is like 100% ray tracing for absolutely everything, looks insane. And so then after that, they got a team of modders to do like a Portal prequel, which was like a fan project, which looked just as good. And then most recently, they announced that there's a new studio of modders called Orbifold Studios working on Half-Life 2 RTX, an RTX Remix project, and that uses RTX Remix. And you can see already in like the videos just how incredible that looks.
Yeah, I'm looking at it
now. So basically, it's a mixture of like they're using like AI to upscale textures. It adds RTX, so ray tracing and path tracing. They're replacing models with highly detailed updates. So it's basically powerful enough for you to remake a game at the level of like, what Capcom is kind of doing with like the Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously a little bit different, but like, the visual jump is basically at that level. And so with it in open beta, if you open, there's a link in our article for like the ModDB page for RTX Remix, and you can see like these are the games that people are working on, right, to mod. Doom 3, Battlefield 2, Fallout 3, the original Stalker, Far Cry, Max Payne, Thief 2, Call of Duty 4, Half-Life 2, as we've discussed, Wolfenstein, Enemy Territory, Quake 2, Left 4 Dead 2. Do you understand? Like this is what's happening. Like people using RTX Remix to like so like the next. Like, it's not instant. It's not like press one button and the game is remastered, right? But it makes the process so much easier.
Age of Mythology.
Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. Holy moly.
Age of Mythology, Costa?
Yeah.
I'm going to get lost in that game again.
So the next, like, you know, give it like 6 months, whatever the case is, but like the second half of this year and next year, you're going to see so many like RTX remix things. Like we've already seen, like there was like a Max Payne one where somebody just basically just used the AI upscaling and just the internal tools, and it looks like, you know, heaps better already.
They
Like,
need to do Metal Gear Solid, but I'm pretty sure that's already getting a remaster, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's Tomb Raider, the original Tomb Raider.
Yes, yes. Oh my God, Battlefield 2, man.
Batman Arkham Asylum, Morrowind, Jedi Academy. I mean, this is like listing.
These are classics.
The greatest PC games for the last 20 years, right?
Yeah.
Whatever the case is. Imagine like fully path traced, and then people can go in and change models. It's like what it's capable of, and how it opens up those tools for developers is incredible, right? And it's just gonna change PC modding, game modding.
I think it's going to revive classic titles. Like all of the titles that you just listed, if Mount Rushmore had 20 different heads on top of it, those games would be in the Mount Rushmore of titles. Like Stalker, man. I haven't heard that name for so long, but I played that game so much growing up.
So many classics, yeah. It's going to be...
I'm going to replay so many old games.
Same. Like I replayed through like Portal RTX and the prequel, and they're like so good.
Yeah.
Like they just felt like you're playing like brand new remakes, and then you find out like how they did it. It's like, because RTX remix is so powerful, right? So basically you've got, at its most basic level, it can, you know, dramatically change the lighting in a game to make it ray traced, and you can upscale all the textures, and things like bricks and stuff become, you know, have depth and stuff like that, lighting, shadow, and everything just looks so much better. Yeah. And it can do that. But, you know, take the next step. Let's say you brought in like a team of like, you know, half a dozen 3D modelers and artists, right? And you don't have to have like a huge, massive team. You can then replace in-game models. So character model, you can create like a new higher quality version, whack it in there. You can put in your own textures. You can like, you know what I mean? Like there's levels of it. So that's how you get to like almost like remake level. Yeah,
definitely. I'm just thinking of all of the little units in Age of Mythology, all just being HD, like full resolution, even like 4K. Oh man, Age of Mythology with ray tracing. I don't even know how that would work, but I want it.
It'll work.
I want it. It's like, well, where's the light got to be? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a top-down kind of thing, but I don't care. I still want it. I just want to see Age of Mythology ray tracing. And I'll be like, okay, click, 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 click.
And that like isn't a requirement, but like, you know, because it's NVIDIA based, those are just easily just inbuilt. So you got ray tracing, you got DLSS, you got frame gen, all those, you know, in the new ray reconstruction, all of that tech is just there. And like, you know, like in the Portal RTX, the very first thing, like RTX Remix has its own overlay. And so like, you know, it's like whatever, Control 0 or Control 1, whatever, to bring it up. And there you just have like, you know, turn on DLSS at the quality level, turn on like frame gen, blah, blah, blah. You can just like, you know, like you just tick them all on and off like that. So like has its own overlay. So you don't, so you're like, you know, like you've got the game menu and the classic game running, but then you have the remix shit happening on top.
Yeah.
So cool.
I want, and I know this probably will never happen, and it's sad that it won't, but the first video game I ever played was Jak and Daxter, and my mum bought it. My mum bought it for me. No, that's a lie. That's my first console game that I ever played, because I had an old compact PC and I was playing Age of Empires, like the first one that came out. That was the first video game that I actually sat down and played. But I got a PS2, and mum bought Jak and Daxter because it's spelt the same way that I spell my name, just JAK. And she's like, oh, okay, I'll play that. I would love if Naughty Dog just let the PC modding community remake Jak and Daxter with RTX, or like even the old Ratchet and Clank games. And
dude, yeah, like this would be potentially like this would be like the gray area or crossing the line, because this technology, if applied to emulation, like would just be like transformative. So like you could just like plug in like an old, like old emulators which deconstruct these games. So like the way an emulator works, like to emulate PS2 games on PC, and you can emulate them, triple the resolution or whatever the case is. Then you can apply texture filtering and all sorts of stuff. You can even like replace textures in some of them as well. Like you go deep into the emulation scene, right? But those emulators are doing what this RTX Remix kind of does. Like it breaks down how the game code works, so and then it rebuilds it to run on a PC. Basically to make, and like sometimes the emulation, it doesn't really work. Sometimes it's a bit garbled, or like it's not 100% accurate to what it actually looks like. But they're like when it comes to like GameCube and stuff like that and PS2, they're at the level now where it's almost flawless. So being able to like inject that and then just like add like like some RTX lighting or DLSS.
I'd play through all of them again and stuff if they did that. Because I went back and tried to play them, and it might be maybe
But that's the thing though, like
too elitist, because they just look so dated now. I mean, those games, the controls and the movement in game were always very smooth, and the combat was great. That still felt great, but just the way the game looks, like I just need a fresh coat of paint on top of it, and then I'll be right back there. But a man can only dream. Is that about all you wanted to talk about that?
Yeah.
Or is there some other aspects?
No, that's it. Just stay tuned, because not the last we'll hear about it, but we'll start covering some of the coolest RTX Remix mods that we see.
For sure. So, and also, thank you, NVIDIA, for creating
this. Is like modding, mod heaven.
This makes me really excited to go on like a nostalgia kick through all of my old titles when they become available. Let's quickly jump to scientists claiming they've discovered Amelia Earhart's plane wreckage.
That's quite the segue, but I'm here for it.
You get a nosebleed. You could jump from NVIDIA Remix to Amelia Earhart.
That is nosebleed territory. Let me just check.
For those listeners that are younger, Amelia Earhart.
What do you mean? Like Amelia Earhart? It was even like I'm older than you, but like that's, you're talking about like 100 years ago, right?
90, nearly 87 years.
So nobody was like, oh yeah, I remember when this was on the news.
No one. I don't even think that like there was the news. Like you had a newspaper.
There was, but it was like this week. War.
Yeah.
Germany declares war.
Yeah, it didn't sound like the podcast, that's for sure. So
NVIDIA RTX Remix launches.
So, yes, Amelia Earhart, famed aviator. She attempted to fly around the world. That was her big journey. And if she achieved that, it would have been, she would have been the first female pilot to do so. The disappearance occurred in 1937.
Was it over the Bermuda Triangle?
That was a theory for a long time, but according to this team, the company Deep Sea Vision is an ocean exploration company, and they're claiming, and it's reports from NPR and the Wall Street Journal, they've discovered a wreckage of a plane that its shape, tail, and size appear to be the same model of plane that Earhart left in. And it's also apparently, and this is a bit of a contentious, what would you say, part of the story. The company says that it's within the region where she should have flown across the Pacific Ocean, and then other people are saying that's impossible, she wouldn't have gone that way. So, it's all up for debate, but let's just go by what Deep Sea Vision is saying. So the team used a underwater drone and a 16-person crew to map 5,200 square miles of the ocean floor between Australia and Hawaii. According to the team, Earhart's aircraft was a Lockheed Electra, and the sonars that from the drone resemble that aircraft. And if you're just an audio listener, there is images on screen right now. And I mean, they're not HD because they're sonar. But the plane is located 16,000 feet below the surface of the...
I was about to say, it's like you can't actually go... It's not like you can go down there.
No, everyone remembers what happened to the submersible. That's tragic. So, yeah, I wouldn't recommend you swim down that far to have a look.
James Cameron down there.
Yeah. James Cameron. So,
dude loves to see.
Earhart's disappearance is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, of aviation mysteries. This isn't definitive evidence that they found the plane, but it's nice to be able to see that there is a plane down there. And the team says it plans to investigate the area further. So
yeah,
we'll see.
I wonder if they can send like a drone down there. I don't know how deep sea exploration works.
Neither do I. And I don't know how. I mean, you can send stuff down pretty far, but yeah, I don't know if it's the 16,000 feet. I don't know. Why don't they just send the drone down there with a camera? But I'm sure that's their next plan.
Yep.
So yeah, that's just a quick little story. I thought was interesting because that's one of the, like I said, one of the greatest aviation mysteries ever.
Definitely. And that leads into the that other story that you posted. Like I saw the headline and I was like, wait, what's this? Because if I see Dead Space in a headline, I click because that's one of the greatest horror games in my opinion.
I have never played Dead Space, but I have
the remake, dude.
That
the remake.
They're very good, and a lot of my close friends have played it, and they said it's incredible. But what I am a fan of is HP Lovecraft. I love the Necronomicon. I love he's a classic, even to the point where he's been described as like the godfather of horror.
Yeah, and
this game easily has flown under the radar, I think. If you like horror and you like feeling uncomfortable, like there's deep sea games, and I don't know if it's just me, but there must be other gamers out there because being under the water,
it's claustrophobic, but also like it's just unsettling, right?
Yeah,
so
it makes your skin crawl. I don't know. It has a different feeling than being in space, at least for me. And I suppose I must have some kind of fear of the water. But
like it nails like the like the volumetric effects for like sand at like the bottom of the ocean or whatever it is. Like it's like all like it's almost like a mist, but it's kind of like sand particles and stuff and yeah, like the rocks, and then you can only see a certain distance, and
it's it creates a very high level of immersion, I think, being under the water. And this game, it's not reported on a lot, and it is currently in development. It's called Deep Dark Sea. It's powered by Unreal 5, and it is taking inspiration from Dead Space and Subnautica to deliver a truly unsettling experience while exploring the ocean floor. Now, this game comes from CEO and founder at Corn Crow Games AB, Patrick Hansen. I've never heard of this developer, this person. No. I just happened to come across this story. I'm like, what is this? And yeah, it's also meant to have inspiration from HP Lovecraft's world, as you can see by the some of the. If you skip to a minute 25 in that video that's embedded in the article, some of the crabs you see, I can definitely see inspiration from Lovecraft. Like it looks like Lovecraftian horror, and it's very janky, but Unreal 5 looks awesome, and I kind of like the fact that you're like walking on the sea floor and not swimming around.
I think that's like a untapped sort of kind of like visual style, or like like it's like, ooh, what's this? Like I would like to see more of it. Like a like a Bioshock style game, right?
Yes. Yes.
But where like there is like I think it was in Bioshock 2 where you actually went outside briefly, but to actually have like ocean floor gameplay that's like kind of like slow mo. So like the reason why like you compare it to Dead Space as well is that like so you haven't played it Dead Space, but there's sections in Dead Space, right? So you're on like this abandoned derelict spaceship, and it's horrific in terms of the monsters you're going up against. But there are moments where you go outside, right? And then when you go outside, it's 0G, and like all you hear is like like the vibrations. Like you don't hear the sound, you just hear the vibrations. And like, and if you're firing or whatever, like you go backwards, and it's almost like a silent. It's just, and then like when you go in the airlock, it's like, like then just like a wall of sound as you go back in.
That's
like
cool.
Like that sort of stuff is just, like it takes you there, that level of immersion. So like this can sort of like nail certain like feelings of the way sound would travel underwater, like the lighting and stuff like that. Then it will just be incredible, because that sort of you don't see that very often.
Yeah. Other inspirations for this game, like I said, HP Lovecraft. Jules Verne is someone I'm not familiar with. HR.
He did 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, I think.
Right. HR. Is it Geiger?
Geiger. That's Alien.
Right. And would deliver an experience that mixes the feelings of Dead Space, Subnautica, Zelda, The Wind Wake, Elden Ring, and Valheim. That's a lot of games to...
Yeah, that's a lot of
tie together.
Very different games too, so it'll be interesting to know.
Yeah, this is just a game that like I said, very early stages of development. I just thought it was cool, and
yeah, it definitely looks cool.
Now you know about it. I'm going to keep my eye on it because I love my Lovecraftian horror. That's for sure. But yeah, that's about all I had on that story. Did you want to flex back into
or should we just keep it on Unreal Engine 5?
Oh yeah, we'll keep it on the Unreal Engine 5 lane. So I've got here, this is, to my knowledge, the world's first feature-length film made entirely in Unreal Engine 5. Now, that is, like I said, to my knowledge. I've looked up, I've tried to find full-length films made in Unreal 5 and have found nothing. The only thing that I've found is short films. Like you were saying before we started recording, The Mandalorian used Unreal 5, and maybe you could speak on that a little bit. But this is a complete movie, and it is an adaptation of the sci-fi comic series Rogue Trooper. This was definitely before my time, and it's also British as well, so I'm not very familiar with the story or anything like that. But it follows a character called 19, a pale blue-skinned super soldier fighting a brutal and relentless future war. 19 is the sole survivor of a horrific attack and must continue to fight to uncover the truth of who sold himself, and he sold himself. Pardon me. Must continue to fight to uncover the truth of who sold out himself and his comrades. Not alone in this fight, he's joined by 3 minds of his killed squad. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. I really like, this is what made me literally write the article, was the 3 minds of his killed squad are personalities that are digitally preserved within his gun, helmet, and rucksack. So the movie is going to be like, you're going to be following this character, and you're going to have, I'm guessing, like voices coming through, like his weapons and his helmet and his backpack, and they're his fallen comrades. I'm like, that's a cool premise. I've never. It reminds me of that Rick and Morty game where the guns would be like, like if you're missing, they're like, you suck.
That's right. I forget what that was called, but yeah, that was funny. So well, I mean, I'm excited just because like Duncan Jones, like Moon is like an all-time classic. I love that film.
Is that with Sam Rockwell?
Yep.
Yeah, I love that movie. I loved that movie. I love the soundtrack as well.
Yeah, and he did the Warcraft movie, but that was like, I mean, I think it was okay, but like,
that was for Warcraft fans. That was
that's right. And he was a Warcraft fan, so it's like, it was, yeah, it wasn't really for everyone, but it was like for fans.
Yeah, because my friend, or a couple of my friends that have been playing World of Warcraft for 10 years, like every single new expansion that comes out, they jump in, even if they play it for a few months. But they loved that movie. And like, as someone that has only played maybe like 2 expansions, I'm like, what is happening in the right now?
It's too much, right? Like it's too convoluted to anyway, that's like a different discussion. Like, how do you adapt something with like that much story to it?
Yeah.
But like going back to like Unreal Engine 5, so my understanding of like I love special effects in movies and like how they're done and stuff like that, you know, like CG and stuff like that. So like when it comes to like, you know, the early days of CG, like you go back to like Jurassic Park, but like past that and beyond that, once there's like been like heaps of CG in a movie, or even like if you're doing like an animated film, what they would do is like create like animatics or like rough versions so they could figure out what a scene would look like, and work out like the cameras. Because as soon as you start like rendering something at that high level back then, it would take, you know what, a whole day of like supercomputers to render like 3 seconds of footage or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like it's just so time consuming. So you would use like more basic 3D models to present like an animatic and be able to play with it. It will take like an hour to render, whatever the case is, but you've got something, right? Fast forward to today, and now Unreal Engine 5 is capable of producing visuals that are on par with you know, movies essentially, in terms of like the effects that you can run through these game engines. And like you can see in like some games that have like, you know, like real-time cutscenes, you know, where the frame rate is brought down, but like the visual quality, and they add all these like cinematic effects, so it just looks film-like. So like, you know, these engines can do all that sort of stuff. But like what the Mandalorian does, and like it takes that concept of being able to see something beforehand, is that like they would create like whole environments that are in CG in Unreal Engine. And then in the Mandalorian, they created this huge soundstage that has like hundreds of displays, just PC monitors, 4K monitors, just all connected, right?
Wow.
Like, and the resolution would be insane. Like, it's an insane amount of pixels. So then they have like a whole, you know, ungodly amount of GPUs running to render this thing in real time. And Unreal Engine is connected to the camera, so it knows where the camera is. And so then it perspectively adjusts like the scene. So like everything just always, and it can move across. And so basically it allows actors in The Mandalorian to be able to be in the environment on the planet's surface, or wherever the case is. You have a little bit of set, you might have your desks and stuff like that, but like everything is, so they don't have to like blue screen it, and then they can create that set once, and then they can film, like you can basically, like, you know, for a TV show like The Mandalorian, it makes sense, because if you have, you know, 10 episodes, and there's in every episode, or most episodes, there's scenes that take place in this one location. You can just have that location. You don't have to like blue screen it. You don't have to render it 10 times. You can just film it live, and whatever the case is.
No,
but this seems to be like next level, because now you're just like filming, or you're doing motion capture, but then you're just seeing the results in Unreal Engine 5 and probably in real time. Like there'll be versions of this movie that they're like, what makes it sort of like groundbreaking is that the director would have direct control over things like camera and lighting.
Yeah.
And to be able to see like instant things happening. And then obviously you do like the post-processing rendering, or like the hard, you know, what the final image is going to look like, which is, you know, will be photoreal or high quality CG. But like the whole point is that like now you can almost like make a movie in a game engine, or use a game engine to be able to visualize the movie and dynamically create it without having to, you know, go through the step of waiting weeks for like renders, or like
waiting for the edit and all of that. That is, that's, I think you've hit the nail on the head right there. And I really hope, purely for the future of Unreal 5, that this does really well. It says reports indicate that it's completed principal photography. I'm not exactly sure.
That's like motion capture, most likely.
Yeah, how far along the timeline for the release is. Like, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's a bit early-ish. Like, if you were to say if you were to ask me what's the percentage of the like completed movie, I would say maybe at maximum and this is purely just my opinion, principal photography probably 20%, I reckon.
Yeah. Yeah, and also I'm just keen to see what this looks like because I have no idea, and it'll be really good to see like behind the scenes to kind of like see how they're using.
Oh, for sure.
Unreal Engine 5.
Yeah, no, definitely. I just thought this was yeah, I've never heard of and I'm still looking if there is ever been a full length feature
There's
film.
been like short films like made with like Unity and stuff like that. I know that.
Yeah.
And like, there are demos where you get like photorealistic characters that can be rendered. And like, when the 4090 was first announced, NVIDIA sent like this Unity or tech demo, which was basically like a photoreal character that like you're running it in native 4K, it ran at like 10 frames per second because it was like photoreal. But then if you put on frame generation, it goes to like 70 or whatever. It was just like, just to show you that like you can run a CG quality scene in real time. So like, I think like the level of what these tools are capable of now.
Yeah,
like
it's impressive.
It's going to be exciting because it just means that it lowers the barrier or the cost barrier for talented filmmakers to be able to generate something incredible.
I agree completely. That's all I had on that. I will keep you updated if we hear any more about the first Unreal Engine 5 feature film, Rogue Trooper. Cool. What's next on the menu?
To GPU news. We'll do a couple of quick ones. So AMD's FSR3, which is their frame generation. It kind of like soft launched last year with the 7800 XT in like September, but was only available in 2 games, and the 2 games were Forspoken and Immortals of Avium, not exactly popular games.
Yeah.
And AMD's approach was kind of like their FSR upscaling, is that it would run on a GeForce card or a Radeon card, but the image quality wasn't quite there. It had issues with VSync. Latency wasn't as good as DLSS. It wasn't as impressive as frame generation. And obviously frame generation now is in like 100 plus games or whatever the case is. It's in a lot of games now. So that was in September, and basically there was basically no more games that adopted FSR3 until Ubisoft's Avatar game.
Right.
Now, Ubisoft's Avatar game is a visual showcase. It looks, on a high-end PC, it looks really good. It's like the original sort of like Far Cry and Crysis levels of like jungle foliage and detail.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's nuts, yeah. It's worth checking out.
I might check it out, yeah. I do like
just for the visuals.
Avatar.
And so that launched with FSR3, and it was like, the first game to have FSR3 in like 3 months. And it was a vastly improved version. So obviously it kind of felt like the version that launched with those GPUs was kind of like AMD just saying, well, we said this was going to launch this year, so we just have to get it out, so to speak. And we got these new GPUs, so it's a feature. So it almost like it felt like an early access release. And now that it's in a somewhat decent state, I still think DLSS 3 is more impressive, and just like DLSS upscaling is more impressive than FSR's. But it's a good
good bump.
Yeah, it's a good bump, and it's progressed. And so now in January, there's like over double the number of titles that now support it, and games like Cyberpunk and Starfield and a whole bunch of others are going to get it this year as well. And so it looks like it's now at the stage where we should see it start appearing in more and more games.
Starting to tick along. We're starting to check off some big titles here, like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 and Warzone, Cyberpunk, Starfield for one.
Yeah.
Like, this is moving along.
Yeah, so what's interesting about this is that because NVIDIA's version is exclusive to the 40 series, what this means is that like when FSR3 comes to Cyberpunk, is that people with like 3080s and 3090s will be able to run frame gen.
Yeah.
To boost performance, if you know what I mean? Like, and it's using AMD tech. So it is exciting in that respect because they're doing something that's more open.
They're different.
But that's just because they're using a different approach.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see if if it makes more improvements. But it kind of like sounds like frame generation is going to be like a big thing going forward.
Oh,
because NVIDIA is obviously all in. AMD's now all in on it. They're doing the driver-based fluid motion frame stuff as well. So Intel's working on their versions. So stay tuned. I mean, this isn't going anywhere. Like this technology is just going to evolve.
No, these are the first baby steps of what we're seeing with FSR. Yeah, we'll let you know when it's taken its first like big boy steps into massive adoption, because like I was saying, this does like they're securing some of the biggest titles, and they just need to keep going. And honestly, if they make the performance comparable to DLSS, they're gonna win on the long run, because of just the fact that it's not restricted to a certain generation of GPU. Like the only thing that
was like the mindset with DLSS originally, right? Because it was like FSR came along and it's like, well, you need a 20 series card for this to work. But now you've got 3 generations that can run DLSS upscaling. Yeah. And pretty much of all the GPUs out there, most of them are RTX, right? For like NVIDIA GPUs now. So that's no longer a thing. So like, you know, if DLSS 3 continues to evolve and get better, then you got like, you know, the 50 series or the 60 series. It could be the same sort of case where enough time passes that every NVIDIA card basically can run frame generation. It's no longer restricted to just the newest ones.
Yeah, I suppose it could be a bit too late for AMD. Like they should have...
Depends on how... Yeah, that's right. Like if they're going to go all in, they have to like accelerate big time this year.
100%. Yeah, I agree with that. Big time. This is good to see. Competition's good for all of us.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
And I hope they keep going, keep adopting those titles, keep making it better, keep making it more competitive with NVIDIA.
Because frame gen is actually really good in a lot of games. Like playing Cyberpunk with frame gen, it's actually quite enjoyable. Especially like if you play with, I play a lot of certain games on PC with controller, and it's perfectly fine. Yeah, like I'm used to like playing games back in the day on, like we had this projector, you know, connected like an Xbox 360 to it, and like the way old school projectors work is that the latency.
Yes, I was about to ask you, what do you think the latency was on that?
Wasn't great, right? But like I got used to it. If you know what I mean. Like,
it's like 10 milliseconds or something.
The earliest like LCD TVs weren't that great for latency either. Yeah. Like, you know, like this is like, I'm not saying like frame generation is like at that level, but this is like better than what that was. So like, you know, this is not like the worst latency I've ever experienced.
You've been around, Kosta. You've been around.
Yeah.
No, that's good to see. I'm happy that they're adopting more titles, and we'll keep you listeners updated on
the frame wars.
Any more that make the list. We're breezing through these stories now.
Yeah. The final graphics card GPU story of the week is about competition as well. It's Intel's next-gen GPUs. So I've reviewed pretty much most of the Arc graphics cards, and they continue to improve. So just even like a couple weeks ago, they launched a new driver that improved DirectX 11 game performance in about 30 different games by up to like 30%. Because they're going basically on a game-by-game basis to improve performance. Because the way drivers are, like, you know, the reason why an NVIDIA driver is like, you know, now 650 meg and 6 years ago it was 350 meg. Yeah. You know, it's or like they're going to be like a gig soon. It's because they have profiles and settings and optimizations for every game ever created.
Yeah, they're building on top of...
Adding day one support in a game driver means adding more data to that game driver. Yeah. And you don't remove the data from the older games because you want people to be able to play those games as well. So that's the way it works. So Intel drivers, it was their first generation, so they're dramatically improving. They're improving at a rate that's impressive and commendable. I don't think they're at the level of NVIDIA or AMD drivers. I don't think they're at that level, but give it some time and they will be, and they're going all in on it. So basically their next gen after the current Arc is called battlemage. And this has been rumored for a while. We've touched on it before, but it's rumored that it's going to come out this year, most likely in the second half of the year, because I don't see it coming out in the first half because I don't think we'd have more leaks at this point if it was.
Fair. That's a fair take, yeah.
Intel has confirmed that they are testing it it's in full testing mode internally. So they have confirmed that yes, this architecture is currently being tested. And so basically the fully unlocked or the top end battlemage GPU will be a 5 nanometer process node, which is similar to AMD's current generation. And it'll just up it'll still have 16 gig of VRAM and more of everything as you do with a generational upgrade of the way Intel measures their stuff is like different, like, NVIDIA have CUDA cores and AMD have like compute units and things like that. They all have their own version of stuff. But like the thing is that their flagship is they're not going for like the $1,000 4080 Super market, right? So it's not going to be as powerful as the 4080 Super, right? But what they're going for is the mid-range. So if they can hit a price of like, 500 US or 400 US and then, or even lower, if that's what they're going for, then they could shake up the market. Now, the previous gen, they were targeting 3070 levels of performance to be able to beat the 3070 at a certain price point. It doesn't. Like their flagship Arc GPU is not as powerful as a 3070. It's really? Basically like a 3060 Ti at best. You know what I mean? Like it's not great. Well, I mean, like it's okay because they're sold way cheaper than what they were expected because of the performance. But the current rumor is that the battlemage GPU from channel Moore's Law is dead, is that the performance target will be a 4070 Super.
What do you think about that?
I think that's impressive if they can hit that, because the 4070 Super is probably my favorite GPU currently available. If somebody has, sort of like mid-range market money to spend, like, if you got like that sort of like $500, you want like, which is a lot of money still in US dollars, right? You got that sort of 500 to 600, whatever the case is, to spend on a GPU, and you want to build like a powerful gaming rig for 1440p ultra wide or even some entry level 4K gaming, you go with the 4070 Super because it's a sizable performance uplift over the 4070 and it's the same price. So it's the best value sort of like card at that sort of like price range.
What do you think the likelihood is of them?
That it'll... Here's the thing, like I'm rooting for Intel in a lot of ways because they're surprisingly good in a lot of areas. So Intel's ray tracing performance. So the way like Intel has designed these cards is for DirectX 12, for ray tracing, for AI stuff. Like they're taking all the lessons that the RTX line has kind of like done in the past like couple of generations and kind of like gone in that direction, right? So for the performance level that you're getting, the Intel Arc GPUs do notably better ray tracing than Radeon cards, like significantly better ray tracing.
They're almost at that price range at the mainstream level. They're almost up there with some of the RTX models. Okay.
So if this is like a sizable upgrade and they can sort of like up the ray tracing and get it to like at the 4070 Super level and then the performance as well in modern games, that's going to be impressive to see.
Oh yeah, and it's awesome for consumers is to have
because then you come in
player.
At a lower price and then AMD comes in and then they drop a price, and then what's NVIDIA going to do? They're going to drop the price too.
They have to.
Especially
if all the bells and whistles are becoming more comparable to what NVIDIA can offer. It's like they'll be hamstrung. They'll have to drop the price, or like I mean that's what they'll have to do.
If AMD or Intel released like a high-end $800 US GPU that was as powerful as a 4090, NVIDIA it'll just make their 4090, which costs double that, look silly in a way, because you go like, oh, here's something that's it. But like the way it stands now, it's like the 4090's price is astronomical. Yeah. Like I wouldn't spend that much money on a GPU. I would say, like, if you're going to go all out, get something that's at least, somewhat you could justify it in terms of, price and performance, right? But because there's nothing that competes with it, it just sits alone, right? Like you go, well, like that's its price. There's no competition at that level.
It's kind of like the Apple Vision Pro, which we'll probably talk more about next week. But that's a US price, $34.99 mixed reality headset. It's like you can't even compare that against the Meta Quest 3, which is like $500 and you can't compare it on price or features because there is nothing in the market that has anything close to the features of Apple's Vision Pro. So it's a unicorn.
So I hope that this is like on its way soon, that like it comes out this year, that it doesn't get delayed, Intel's next gen GPU, and that it brings like better drivers, more stability, and notably better performance to the table on day one.
Awesome.
If that's the case, it'd be good to see.
Awesome to see. Awesome. I hope this is true as well, because we just want more competition. It's like we've had a duality of, it's not even really a duality, it's a monopoly. Like NVIDIA is just sitting, has had the crown for so long. As long as I've been in the industry and interested, I've only heard through Anthony the days of when AMD were I
know. Like back in the day, it was like head to head, like in terms of features, and it was kind of like back in there, like when AMD or when it was like the Athlon CPUs as well, like they were like right up there, and now they're back up there with Intel for like Ryzen, but their GPU stuff is good, but it's just not at the level that we've seen. That like and like some of that is like mindshare as well. It's like, well, why would I switch from one to another? And the only way you're going to is that if it's significantly more cost, you're saving money, but at the same time you're getting a lot more for it. So it's not just like paying less for less overall features. You want to be paying less with like at the very least equivalent features. We need more competition in the GPU market, that's for sure. So go on NVIDIA, go on Intel, sorry, you good thing. Let's see if these rumors are true. Should we go into more rumors of the Nintendo Switch 2?
Let's do it. These ones are, if you've been following along with the show, we've been talking about basically every rumor for the Nintendo Switch 2 or whatever the next gen console is Nintendo are planning on making. I'm sure it will be called calling it the Nintendo Switch 2.
Yeah, but like, I don't know. Like, do you think it'd be just called Nintendo Switch 2? Like, maybe, because they've never done that.
Yeah, probably not, actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
Super Nintendo Switch?
Do you reckon they could go Pro? Nintendo Switch Pro?
No, see, you don't want to fragment. You want to like when they did the Wii U, which was like probably one of the least popular or best selling consoles, where they tried that whole dual screen thing, and that's one of the reasons why it failed. But they called it the Wii U to building on the success of the Wii. And because of that, a lot of people didn't understand what it was. They just thought it was a different version of what they already had. Consumers that don't know anything.
Fair
enough. If you just go out there and if you see Nintendo Switch Plus or something, you'd be like, oh yeah. Because they've already got a Switch Lite or whatever. They need to, it needs to be some form of branding that lets you know it's a sequel. And that's why we're all kind of using Nintendo Switch 2.
I just thought of something, and they're never going to do this, but imagine if they called it the Switchblade.
The Switchblade?
Yeah.
Nintendo Switchblade.
Nintendo's family-friendly G-rated developer and publisher release a console called Switchblade. That would be awesome. They're definitely not going to do that, but for all intents and purposes, we're calling it the Nintendo Switch 2 for now until we have an official name. According to Takesha... Do you want to pronounce that for me, because I will butcher it?
Mochizuki.
Mochizuki?
Mochizuki? Yeah.
Anyway, a reporter from Bloomberg and which is citing market research firm Omdia analyst Hiroshia Hayashi. I'm terrible at pronouncing these Asian names. I apologize. Indicate the next generation console will arrive with an 8-inch LCD screen, not an OLED. So out of the CES madness, everyone would have seen that pays attention to the even remotely to the tech industry, all of the OLED panels that have come out. And I can't remember if previous rumors, I'm pretty sure they did point towards the Nintendo Switch 2 adopting an OLED panel.
There has been, but there was strong indications that it was going to be LCD, and the LCD makes sense just because of the cost. But like it just means that there's going to be an OLED model down the track.
That is what these rumors are.
They do command a premium, but it's just disappointing because it's such a game changer, right? Like if you look at the Switch OLED next to the Switch, if you look at the Steam Deck OLED next to the Steam, it's just night and day.
It is night and day. So the newest rumors come from display shipment data. Nintendo is planning on manufacturing 10 million units of the next gen console in the first fiscal year, and these units won't feature an OLED panel, according to the previously mentioned market research firm. However, that doesn't rule out OLED altogether. As Omdia says, not for this year in quotation marks, which seems to allude to a second next generation console, including an OLED panel. So do you think it's possible that we could see a kind of like what happened with the Switch, where they came out with the base model?
I think it's guaranteed because the OLED model was popular. So I think they're just going to do the base model and an OLED model. But I'm hoping that they do it at the same time, that they actually launch with 2 SKUs.
Really?
The LCD cheaper one and then the more expensive OLED.
Do you think they've never done anything like that before?
No, because Nintendo aren't interested in, like being on the bleeding or cutting edge and offering here's like a version with 2 terabytes of storage, an OLED panel, an overclocked GPU, whatever. Like they're not interested in, that's not where it's just games, right?
Yeah.
And the hardware is a delivery for them to be able to, be the home of the next Mario and Zelda and stuff like that. And you need better hardware to kind of like push that tech as because we're now in the 4K realm of like home entertainment. But also, the Switch is just now showing its age dramatically in terms of the mobile chip hardware that it's got. So, there has to be a sequel. And it's going to be more powerful, guaranteed. But to keep the cost down, they're the only company that makes a profit on hardware, like a decent profit on hardware. They're not in the business of losing money. When this PlayStation 5 launched, Sony weren't making money off the console. When the Xbox Series X launched, it's not a money-making business. The reason those things are like $500 US, and it's like, oh, that's as powerful as a $1,000 gaming PC, but it's like bespoke chips and stuff like that from all these different sources. It's not like a moneymaker. Like you sell 10 million PS5s, you're not making like a lot of profit. But if Nintendo sells 10 million Switches, they're making a lot of profit.
Yeah.
If they're going to sell 10 million Switch 2s, they're going to make a lot of profit.
Yeah, just for the listeners, Sony and Microsoft make a lot of their money off of the subscription services and game
software sales,
their software sales and stuff like that. Just like because there may be some listeners that weren't that's new knowledge to, would be like, well, then why did they keep making the new consoles? Like, well, they have to be making money somewhere, so that's just for them.
You're making a lot. That's right. Like the cost to produce a game or to sell it digitally cost them nothing. Like in terms of like the data, but you're paying $70. It's like the development. You're paying for the development cost of the game and the R&D that companies like Sony and Microsoft put into developing these bits of hardware. At some point, they do turn a profit, but like initially, no.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a ramp
Initially, it's like,
period.
how much are they going to take a hit? Or are they just going to break even, basically? They just try and break even.
Still on Nintendo Switch 2, previous rumors pointed to the adoption of an NVIDIA Tegra 239 chipset, 8 gig of RAM, 64 gig of storage, 1080p screen, DLSS, and ray tracing support. The expected price is $39.99. How do you feel about all of that?
I think that for the screen, I think Nintendo will adopt like 800p or some weird in-between resolution because of the size.
Yeah.
At that size, you don't, if you can get like a little bit more performance, you don't need 1080p. I think you can do like 900p or some sort of weird resolution.
I'd like 900p plus DLSS and ray tracing.
That's right, yeah.
That I'd be fine with, because that's essentially going to be more than 1080p anyway, or it's going to look better than 1080p native without DLSS and ray tracing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just all comes down to cost, but I think they should also like put something in the dock that actually boosts performance as well, instead of just being like a plastic shell that just does pass through.
I agree with that. 100%. Like, let me make that dock so it upscales my game natively, not through software.
Yeah, that like it boosts stuff, and then it like has like additional AI hardware or something to upscale, you know, or whatever the case is. But yeah, I think those specs are kind of like where it's going to end up.
Do you think it's ambitious, those specs?
I think it's going to be less than what we expect.
Yeah.
I think whatever it is when it comes to Nintendo, it's like, don't expect like
crazy hardware.
But the thing is, like, where you're going from, like the Tegra chip in the existing Switch is so low powered, but like what Nintendo has managed to, you look at like Super Mario
Odyssey,
right? And that looks awesome. I love the art direction. I love how it looks. I love how it plays. But that hardware in there, right, is like not even Xbox 360 levels of power.
Yeah.
It's like below, it's like, you know, it's like 2006 or 2005 hardware, right? Like it's already like a decade plus behind. So like people are expecting that the Switch would be kind of like PS4 levels, and if it is that level, that's pretty amazing.
Especially
the thing is, like
the jump in performance compared to the original Switch will be night and day.
Yeah, it would just be interesting to see what a NVIDIA mobile chip would look like at that sort of like, yeah, and with DLSS and stuff like that, it's just going to be way better, but it's not going to be like, you know, PS5. You can't get PS5 in a handheld. You can't get
for $399. You're not going to be able to do it.
No.
We'll keep you updated on any new Switch rumors. That's about all on that one. Yeah, we'll keep an eye out for them and let you guys know if any of them surface. I've got two more stories.
Yeah, would be Windows.
Did you want to go to Windows?
Yeah, so we've rumored that Windows 12 is coming. I mean, that's just a guarantee, really.
Oh, for sure.
But it seems that this is a weird one because like Windows 11 is getting a major update later this year. It's codenamed Hudson Valley, and it's huge. Apparently, the way Windows updates work is that if you update your Windows to like the latest major release, it just does like, it just updates the software, right? It updates what it needs to update in terms of the files. It's just like a update. But there is like a update that's a little bit different. It's called an OS swap, which basically reinstalls the entire operating system as a new version. So that's what's coming for Windows 11. Okay. And the reason for that is because it's going all in on AI features and updating File Explorer and the whole quick panel thing and the way like the back end works and the way you snap panels. Like the one thing about Windows that is pretty much ahead of like Apple and stuff like that is the way you can like snap to like, you know, multiple monitors, and like you put one on snap on the top right here and another window down here.
Yeah, I love that. I use it every day.
yeah, it's an amazing feature, right? So apparently,
good.
like the Windows 11, this update will have that'll be AI powered. So it obviously it knows like what apps you use. It'll be like, okay, hey, would you like? You just click. There'll be an option where it'll be like my apps or whatever, and it'll just be like Discord in this corner, Explorer in this corner, Gmail in this corner, this and that, and you can just have like different snaps like arranged by AI for workflow and stuff like that. So it's going to be...
You could probably set up like a profile, and I'm just guessing because I know nothing about this, but you could probably set up a profile after the AI has analyzed your, like, say my daily routine is opening up like 30 different tabs, having Tweaktown's backend here for me to write into, and then having all my news sources, and then I've got like Google Analytics and all of that happening. And after I've done that for like a week or something, the AI might be like, would you like to create a profile for this?
He's like, hey, how about this? It'll just suggest it, right?
And then when I boot my PC, it just goes open profile, and then it just goes all into the same spot.
Yeah. And all the CPUs in the mobile space launching now have AI hardware, NPUs, neural processors. All the new desktop CPUs that are going to come out later this year, Zen 5, the next gen Ryzen will have AI. All GPU hardware has AI in it, including the current gen Radeon. They all have AI hardware. I'm not too sure. Like, I don't think AMD even uses theirs. But the thing is that like this Windows update will tap into the NPUs to run generative AI scripts or to boost AI performance, right? So you'll be using your CPU, you'll be using your GPU for display, it'll be using the AI thingo. So basically, Windows Central is reporting that this update is so big that Microsoft are toying with the idea of just calling this Windows 12. So Windows 12 is obviously in development, and a lot of these features that come later in the life of an OS are part of like the next generation OS. They kind of like bleed over. And Windows 10 to 11 was a natural sort of like upgrade. It obviously changed a bunch of the UI, made a few fundamental changes, but like 11 is in a pretty good state. So 12 would apparently make some changes to this, and the way that this AI stuff works is that there's going to be like fundamental changes, and that this update's so big that this could be Windows 12. And what confuses me is that what happens is like if you upgrade, if you just do this Windows update, does it just rebrand your computer Windows 12? And if so, that's a pretty smart way of just moving straight to Windows 12, because as we've discussed previously, the Windows 11 adoption isn't as fast as Windows. It's still nowhere near the amount of Windows 10 PCs that are out there, if you know what I mean.
It's dwindling.
So if you do launch Windows 12, right, and it's like, okay, now we're Windows 12, and it's like most people are still on Windows 10. It's like, what gives? Well, then, there's an update for Windows 11 that just moves everybody to Windows 12. And so and then you're just migrating from 10 to 12 or whatever the case is. So it almost sounds like you're potentially just dropping Windows 11 altogether, because it's basically just becomes Windows 12.
Yeah, there might be hardware limitations though, I think.
Yeah, that's right. It might be limited, but I think they'll just disable certain features. I think there'll be a version that will just say, because if you don't have an NPU, then we won't. Or if you've got a GPU, we can use your GPU to run these AI stuff. Is that okay? Yes, no, blah, blah, blah.
Yep. No, that makes perfect sense. No, that's very interesting. We're going to have to keep an eye on that.
So I think, so by the sounds of it, it like kind of sounds like later this year is when we'll get either a massive Windows 11 update that does an OS swap, which is completely reinstall over as a new version, and it's just going to be Windows 11 now fully AI with a whole bunch of other updates, or it's going to be Windows 12.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, cool. Yeah, we're going to have to keep an eye on that. We'll keep your listeners updated. That is... yeah, interesting, especially with the massive adoption of AI. God, it's hard to find something that doesn't have AI infused in it now.
I just because of AI, right? So like the other day, Dell. Sorry, not DHL. I get so many messages from DHL because of all these GPUs. My brain's
wait, what? DHL is AI now?
No. So like Dell, right? So like they email me like, oh hey, we've got a new headset or something for like it's not even like a gaming headset. It's just like a headset for like productivity, you know, like so you can Zoom call or whatever, work from home or work in an office, whatever the case is. I'm like, okay, you know, like those headsets, they're just like earphones and a little microphone that comes off. It's like nothing fancy. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever, send it to me. It was under embargo, but the embargo is now over. But anyway, like long story short is that it's just a headset, but they're calling it an AI-driven headset.
Of course.
It's got AI noise cancellation, AI this, AI that. And I'm like, are you just putting the word or just the letters in front of, because it just sounds like a headset to me.
Yeah.
Like, you know, these things had active noise cancellation. So, you know, you got AI-driven noise cancellation. It's like, all right, sure.
Yeah, but is it like on board?
Does that make it AI?
Does it have an NPU?
No, it says this has just been built with the latest AI-driven technology. I don't even know what that means. AI-driven noise cancellation.
Anyway.
Noise cancellation microphones pick up and filter out background noises by utilizing a robust AI processing model.
Maybe it has profiles that were trained using artificial intelligence.
But that's existed forever, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, RTX broadcast, that's like AI noise cancellation. But that's like if you got an NVIDIA GPU, you can just use that RTX broadcast with any headset on a PC. So like,
and it's really good actually. The broadcast is really good.
Yeah. So it's like, sure.
Sure.
But I think you just have to, like, just because like AI, because of generative AI, like even anything that's even remotely AI now is like you just put it there in the headline.
Yeah.
Even like this stuff, like if 3 years ago they could have said like AI, whatever, and you're like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, but now it's more mainstream. More people know about it, so all of the developers and manufacturers can be like, oh, we've been using AI for ages. Now we can actually put it in our press releases.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah, something that was, and now it's like, yeah, they call it.
Yeah, machine learning's been around for a while. It's not like it just came out in the last couple years. It's like humans figured out that that machines could teach themselves ages ago. Like, look at procedural generation. That's just one example. But yeah, it is a bit of a pain to see so many headlines with AI in the title.
Because we're conflating AI as like in products like this versus AI with like, you know, $2 billion worth of GPUs running insane machine learning large language models, right? That's not
very
what this
different.
Is. You know what I'm saying? This is just a headset with a little bit of software that has been trained to figure out what background noise sounds like, which has existed forever.
Yeah.
Like, you know, ANC headphones are based on the same technology.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like frequency based, blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's not difficult to have like an algorithm that can figure out what frequencies aren't voice.
Yeah, it's a buzzword. I've only got a couple stories left. One of them, we'll finish off on a sad story. But before we do that, I just wanted to talk about a very lucky photographer was able to snap a green flash coming from Venus. And this is a bit of a phenomena that occurs in Earth's atmosphere. I'll just go into it a little bit here. So the green flash is light bouncing off Venus from the sun. It makes its way through Earth's atmosphere, specifically at the low atmosphere. So this phenomena typically occurs when the observer is seeing, it can occur with the sun as well. The sun go right above the horizon line, and that is because that's the densest part of Earth's atmosphere from the observer's perspective. So like light having to go through Earth's atmosphere at the lowest point, the denser the atmosphere is. Now, this photographer was looking at Venus, and Venus popped just above the horizon line, and green flashes started to happen. So what is happening here is that light bouncing off of the surface of Venus then goes through Earth's atmosphere, and a prism effect takes place. So the light is split into RGB colors, which can also be affected by temperature. When this event is taking place, it's possible that only green wavelengths of light make it to the observer, with all the other wavelengths either being scattered or absorbed by Earth's molecules. Now, this same effect happens...
This is like
go on,
using science. This is like being a party pooper, using science to dissuade me from my flat Earth beliefs.
We're gonna have to do a whole podcast on that if you
We're
believe
just like,
that's flat, mate.
There's a big ice wall, and we're in a dish.
We're
We're just like
dish. So this same effect happens during daylight. That's why the sky is blue. So the sun's rays enter Earth's atmosphere. The blue wavelengths of light scatter more than any other colored wavelength of light, and that's why the sky is blue.
right.
So yeah, the observer captured a very rare moment of not Venus like exploding with green, but from his perspective or her perspective, looking at the planet's light coming through Earth's atmosphere.
Yeah.
So I thought it was really cool. So, however, in the above footage, if you look closely, you'll be able to see yellow, orange, red, and even blue. Another simple example of this is the why the sky is blue. This isn't the first time that this has happened, or even this phenomena with Venus. Like I said earlier, it's like it can happen with the sun, even to the point where intense pollen swarms have shown rainbow rings. So the Earth's molecules, light goes through, prism effect happens, pollen or ice crystals in the sky then refract it again and create a rainbow effect.
That's cool.
How dope is that, man? That's so cool.
What would have been even cooler is if there were like...
It was RTX.
There was like a massive green explosion on Venus or something.
Yeah.
Like aliens or something like that.
Or if it was ray trace
what
light.
happened on Venus. Yeah, that's right.
So that's just a cool little story. If you're an audio listener, there is the GIF of the green flash from Venus on the YouTube version, and we definitely recommend you go head over to the YouTube version to watch our faces and any of the images that pop up here. And then lastly, just before we wrap up the show, we have to pour one out for the homie on Mars. Kosta, it's happened. You know how I said last week, it's usually they come back online?
Yeah.
No.
They don't.
Not this time. So,
I mean, is that like, is there still a chance?
Nah. NASA ended its mission. So NASA has officially announced that the Mars helicopter named Ingenuity has ended its mission after its, if I'm correct, its 72nd flight. It was only planned to do one. Yeah, 72 flights.
Yeah.
Originally sent to Mars as a technology demonstration of is it possible that flight can occur on another planet? That was achieved tenfold.
That's so cool.
Tenfold. It performed 72 flights, 14 of those flying further than NASA ever anticipated in total. Ingenuity took to the Martian skies for more than 2 hours. It won't fly anymore. Unfortunately, during its descent, I'm pretty sure it was during its descent of the 72nd flight, it sustained some damage to its rotor.
Oh no,
blades.
not the rotor.
Its rotor blades. I don't know why that is so critical. Like, just fly it again. It's awesome. Yeah, it's over. Ingenuity's mission has come to a close. It was essentially a reconnaissance device for the Perseverance rover. Fly ahead of the rover with its cameras, map out the terrain. With that data, NASA engineers then map the path of least resistance or least hazards, dodging like craters or identifying scientific
Could there be
science
a cover up here?
What was that?
I don't know why I'm in. Could there be a cover up? I don't know why I'm in conspiracy mode. Did it fly? Did it fly over the? I could tell you why. Because when I'm like benchmarking, right?
Yeah.
I'm like watching just like YouTube videos and like whatever random stuff, or like playing a game that doesn't require much attention on my laptop or whatever. You know, while the benchmarks are on. But I've been watching like these I think it's a YouTube channel called The Y Files. It's pretty good. Like they offer like debunking, but it's all like conspiracy stuff. I watched this one on like the red face on Mars. You know, like the old photo. So I'm thinking that maybe Perseverance, they flew over the face on Mars and something happened. And so now they're claiming that.
Oh.
Yeah, so now they're just covering it up saying, we've lost contact.
Oh, I see what you're alluding to. No, I don't think that's possible.
I think that they've flown over structures.
It's all public for those that are, and of course I know you're joking in this regard, but yeah, I'm joking, it's all public data. Like you can see exactly where Perseverance is. You can see exactly where the Mars reconnaissance orbiter is. Ingenuity, even like
again, using science to burst my bubble.
Using logic. Even like Curiosity or Endeavour, or even rovers that are like not even active at the moment. Like this isn't as sad as I think it was. What rover was it? Rover's last words. Just give me one sec. Yeah, okay, so Opportunity on June 10, 2018 sent back data to NASA. My battery is low and it's getting dark.
That's pretty
sad.
That's deeply sad. Like, why does that like affect us like emotionally? It's just like a drone, like a robot meaning like what?
Because it says it recognizes itself. Yeah. It's like my battery is low and it's getting dark.
It's getting dark.
Oh, and it's gone offline. It's just waiting for humans to land and recover and turn it back on. The same will go for Ingenuity, but yeah, pour one out for the homie, the little helicopter, the very first.
Like you wrote, good night, sweet prince.
Yes, that's what I wrote at the bottom of my article. Good night, sweet prince. Your efforts on the red planet will go down in history as they proved that controlled flight on Mars was possible.
That should be on the, when they take a tombstone up there.
Yeah, my quote.
To bury it. Yeah.
Good night, sweet prince. Hamlet reference. But yeah, that's about it. Ingenuity. It exceeded all expectations, became the first vehicle or however you want to call it. It's the first thing to have flown on another planet other than Earth, and it will fly no more. Yes.
Cool, but now
that is about all, unless you had another story.
No, that's all for this week, and to find out more, go to Tweakdown. All the story notes and links are in the description.
Yep, head down to the description below for everything that we talked about. Thank you very much. And if you've made it this far, please go like, comment, and subscribe, of course. Check out the YouTube if you're an audio listener. And if you're a YouTube listener, check out the audio. All right, guys. Thank you very much for listening. See ya.
Thanks. Bye.